How do we deal with online scams in a world of AI, ChatGPT, artificially generated images and speech? As a consumer, how would you be able to differentiate a scam from the genuine article? Jean Roux is a research associate at Digital Forensics Lab and joins us now. Jean, good evening to you and welcome. We seem to be more and more vulnerable to some really sophisticated scams, and what provoked our discussion tonight was a video with my colleague Bongiwe depicted as endorsing some or other cryptocurrency. It was so believable because it looked and sounded like her, so much so that there were responses from people and even family members trying to subscribe. Hard to tell the difference. So tell us about the tech that makes this possible.
So, good evening, and thank you very much for having me on. This is a very good example, or a bad example, depending on which side of the fence you sit, of what's known as generative AI. It's a type of artificial intelligence that's used to manipulate the way that individuals look, the way that they sound. And in this particular case, it's not a new or an isolated case. I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, Leanne Manas also had a similar situation where basically her likeness is cloned. That face is then used as part of a broader scam. And alongside the likeness, you talk also, for example, there are things like the voice being cloned. I've seen instances where they would, for example, use translators, AI-generated translators to translate the text from English into Afrikaans and local languages. All of this built to give the scam a bit more impetus, give it a bit more this veneer of credibility, because it's somebody that you know and recognize that's participating in the scam.
So, again, as you say, it can look like the genuine article, and scammers seem to be getting more and more sophisticated. They're able to generate different identities, even to hoodwink financial institutions as well as customers out of their money. So given the example that you quoted and the one that I did, how can we educate our viewers on what they can look out for and what they can be wary of?
I think the old adage, if it sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. I think that's the mainstay. That's always the fallback. No matter how advanced or how technically proficient the scammers get, as long as you keep that in the back of your mind, you should be fine. In this case, what makes this particular type of scam so troublesome is the fact that you're seeing people that you know. It might be, a friend. It might be a celebrity in this case, people that you see and recognize from television. And if they're the ones promoting the scam, lending their personality and their likeness to this this product or this financial product or whatever the scam actually ends up being, you sit in a situation where there's a lot of trust that gets attached to these individuals, and in a lot of cases they're not even aware that this is happening. There actually needs to be no input from their end. These scammers can use their images found on social media, found on television, and then use that to generate these artificial copies of them that's then used in these adverts.
Again, when you talk about generative AI, and you've described just how well it works, because, scammers who understand how to use the technology can go and scrape, and they can get details and really build what seems to be a credible profile. So if it's not form, that we have to worry about, then it's the content, as you say. If it's too good to be true, then probably it is. Sometimes in the haste of things, Jean, we're moving quite quickly. We're clicking on things because it's starting to look really, really credible. What caution, what advice can you give us about things that are seeking our information or are saying, click here so that you can, have some kind of benefit, even if it could seem probable? We have to be more sophisticated, it would seem, at being able to root this and suss this out.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, unfortunately, comes down to the consumer. You as a user has got a responsibility when operating online to make sure that when you click on something, you know what you're clicking on. This is just magnified tenfold the moment that you are actually handing over money in any instance. With a lot of these scams, the end goal is to funnel you into a range of websites that will then ask you to provide your contact details, your bank account numbers, and your credit card numbers, because they, at the end of the day, they want to monetize this interaction. The entire scam is built around being able to extract money from you. Now, some scams would make a direct withdrawal from your credit card details the moment that you provided with them. Others take your contact details, your email address, your phone number, and they will then actually phone you and contact you, through other means to try and, get you to pay over money to them. This might also then be circulated amongst other people in the same network of scammers. So you might not necessarily be contacted today, but in 3 or 4 weeks' time, an entirely new or separate scam might use the same contact information that was harvested in this particular campaign.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's important to be aware that these things are happening. They are out there. It's unfortunately quite a visceral experience seeing somebody, normally you're kind of trained to believe that seeing is believing. And this time around, that is unfortunately not the case.
And we're actually projecting an image from that clip, which we're letting our viewers know is fake, because, I was joking with Bongiwe earlier. Some people, probably like stop her in the street and say, "Where's my money?" How things potentially can go wrong. Here's the thing, Jean. So we know what to look out for. And for some people, it's simply too late because they've already clicked on or they've subscribed to. And we've asked this question of some of our experts over time. And I'm not sure that we've always heard the best answer. But how do you undo the damage? If you're locked into something where, and I know when it comes to, banking transactions, maybe that's something you can do quite quickly. Phone the banking institution, put a hold on your account or whatever. But let's say you put some money in a cryptocurrency account, or you subscribe to something. How do you get out of these really sophisticated scams that you might have subscribed to inadvertently?
Yeah, in these cases, prevention is entirely better than trying to cure it. A lot of cases, these individuals aren't even in the country. So trying to establish jurisdiction over them, trying to prosecute them and eventually try and get some of that money back is, even if it is successful, it's a very lengthy process. So not getting involved in the first place, that's the first prize. If you do get involved, it's important to try and keep as much evidence of the transaction as possible. All the websites that you visited, if you were given a specific email to contact, to keep a hold of that, and to provide all of this to the authorities when you do go and report the case. It just enables them to have a very good starting point, because what these scammers also do is they churn through things like websites and social media profiles very quickly. Because it is something that frustrates investigators. They're not able to follow the breadcrumbs, as it were, if all of these websites have been deleted before they can actually gain access to them.